Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. All right, we got YouTube on. Let's get our Instagram friends on. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome to the Clarity Hotline, clutter-free family. All right, so let's get into it. How's everybody feeling? I feel like there's a lot going on. Let me check what the moon is. What sign the moon is in right now. Okay, so it's a fire moon. And so, and it's a new moon. So I feel like the the conflict there of new moon and a fire moon, in my opinion, in my past of dealing with kind of that, it feels like there's somewhat of a clash for me. But a new moon is a new start, right? So new start. And then we've got the fire. The phase it's in is a fire element. So there's kind of that momentum behind us. So we could definitely use that to our advantage as we enter into a new phase, right? A new cycle. I just bring this up because if you're feeling like there's a lot of conversations out there, there's a lot of conversations. Honestly, I mean, just scroll Instagram and there, people are talking about different things at any different time. It's just, yeah, I don't know. There's just something to talk about. Um, that is controversial. There's something that's touching. There's something that is political, right? Political strife. We're experiencing a lot of that, and I'm finding that I'm not wanting to listen to a lot of it. I have my opinions, my humanity, right? My humanity has opinions on the treatment of people. It has opinions on what feels right in my spirit, what feels right to me, right? We talked about last week about really there not being right or wrong for anybody but yourself, right? Nobody can tell you what's right or wrong. It's up for you to decide. And I think that's kind of where the problem lies, right? When we have conflict, it's kind of like, well, I think I'm right and you think you're right. And then so there's the problem, right? There's the conflict. And so, there's definitely a lot of that happening. Um, and yeah, I'm finding that I'm not trying to scroll so much right now. I'm not trying to scroll headlines in particular to stay on this topic. I'm not trying to scroll headlines so much because I do catch a little bit of the news from my mom. She watches the news. So I catch more news than I'm used to catching, being with her. And yeah, I don't know. It's all negative. So I don't, I'm just I'm picking and choosing what I'm letting into my world because there's a lot of really great things happening too, and if you're only listening to the sad stuff or um, the political narrative, then, it does feel grim and gloomy, like things just aren't working out and things are going wrong and what are we going to do, and but yet there are good things happening, right? People reaching the peaks of their career, people graduating college, right? And doing things, getting jobs that they want. There are kids thriving in their sports, in their field of interest, spelling bees, right? Like really beautiful things. And so I don't know, it's just a call to your attention, right? So let's ground in that. Let's center and ground. Come into this space if you've got the time to be present, close your eyes and feel into the space. Feel into where you're at right now. I think we're probably all fragmented. We're all probably all in different places, depending on what you're watching, depending on what you're listening to, depending on what you're letting yourself be influenced by. There's going to be a different sentiment in your world than someone else's world. And I'm coming already having kind of a busy day, and I have yet to continue a pretty busy day. And for me, I'm just kind of like, okay, keep my head above water. That's the name of the game. So, in all that you've got going on, breathe. Breathe. Just take an inhale and exhale through the nose or through the mouth, however it feels necessary for you and urgent for you, however the breath wants to enter and however the breath wants to exit. Let that be what works for you. And so we've got a couple good questions that came in. Actually, let me read them to you. And I just want to kind of throw them out there to you guys too. I'm not by any means, you know, I don't know. Madeline asked a really good question, and it made me like, I don't know, because I don't feel like I know the answer to this, but I'm curious myself. So she says, "How do you glow up as a homeschool mom?" So in my okay, so let me read them. And then the next question is, oops, I forgot who wrote this. Sorry, whoever wrote this one, forgot to put your name in the notes. What's your biggest tip for success? Okay, so I have a couple big tips for what I feel have been what I feel have like I can attribute to my success. Um, and so, hold on, I'm getting a distraction alert. Okay. I thought I silenced all my distractions. Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, we're still good. We're still good. Um, I have a few things that I could definitely attribute to the success that I've experienced, really all across the board, time and time again, really, truly. So that's a really good question. I'll have to look for the person who wrote that question. Um, but let's start with Madeline's question. So, so when I go to some of these in-person classes for my boys, I'm noticing every homeschool mom's kind of, we're in the trenches. So there aren't too many moms. It's not like at pickup at school where you would experience, moms coming off of their 9 to 5 job. Maybe the corporate life has them dressing up. And so they're just dressed to the nines and they, you know, are wearing their best blazers, suit, whatever it is. And it's a lot different in the homeschool world. A lot of the moms were just going from parks to events and we're in our cars a lot. And if we're not home doing class or whatever, I personally think with littles, homeschooling littles, you really want to be out and about and just in nature. And so there's a lot of that happening with littles if you're homeschooling littles. And so I find myself in parks a lot. And so if you're seeing all the other, oh, thank you. Thank you. Wishing you a beautiful day as well. I love your comments, everyone. Please keep them going. That's really sweet. Love you. But yeah, we're just, we'll go to these classes for our kids and we're kind of sitting in the back and we're all kind of dressed the same. Maybe it's not sweats, but it's some aspect of that. And, hats and t-shirts, we're just in the trenches. It's like a daily thing where, we're not really trying to look cute. So when I got this question, I was thinking, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to walk in there as if you were dressed for a 9 to 5 or corporate life. And I remember when I was working in the corporate world, I always dressed really nice. And I think, I must have got it from my mom. She was always suited and booted every single time she went to work. It was always like she always was probably the best dressed at her jobs. And so I'm sure she rubbed off on her kids. And yeah, I just wanted to look nice for my job. I always felt like you dress for the job you want. And so I always would put in time into my appearance and go. I went in there dressing the part, right? Dressing like I took my job seriously. And I think as moms, homeschool moms, we are dressing as though we are taking our job seriously. And that is very much like being with the moment, being with the day, wherever it takes us. We've got all our big bag of anything can happen, big bag of snacks, big bag of toys, whatever they might need, fidgets, Um, and so it's just a different world. I would not want to be in a suit or be in some of the stuff I wore at my corporate jobs now. It just does not work. If I've got meetings, like client meetings, and I'm on Zoom, then I dress the part, top up. And then I change. I change after the calls, after my schedule lightens up, and then I can put my t-shirt back on or whatever, put my hair back in a bun. And that's kind of like what I think that's just you just kind of want a break from where what the hustle felt like before that, right? And so to celebrities, when they're home and not filming, they're very much in sweats and relaxing, and they need the opposite of like the go 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 lifestyle where it's just like, okay, you're on in hair and makeup, boom boom boom. It's it you know so and some degree you're kind of falling in that, right, to some degree. And when you for to glow up as a homeschool mom, in my opinion, it's just really sticking with um the study at the time. So whatever you're studying, I'm personally studying things about education. I'm finding I'm have a lot of audiobooks in my Libby app where it's about the homeschool game and the education the system, the educational system, and really how it got built up. I think there's a lot of controversy around the educational institution itself and how it all became what it is and who was really behind setting up the structure of the day and what the subjects are, what's the curriculum, and why are they feeding this type of content to our kids, that kind of thing. But way, way, way back when before we were in school, it started all way back, in our ancestry, and the politics at the time changed things along the way. And so I think the school system is trying to do its best to redirect and figure itself out in light of all the new findings, knowing that there was political strife, and whoever won the boycott at the time got this subject or this subject removed from the curriculum or the textbooks, and who won the textbook war, why Macmillan was, top of the textbook game for so long. And then you just kind of have to see. You really do. I'm finding it very enlightening and interesting to know that it's not just, oh, send your kid to school. There's a lot that goes with it. There's a lot of thought that goes into it. I think there's a lot of thought in why parents are pulling their kids out of school. So anyway, as far as glowing up, I just want to educate myself on the lay of the land. I want to educate myself on the lay of the land when it comes to educating our kids. And like I said, I have littles. So I think as they enter, their teenage years, if they're still in homeschool, it's a different world then, right? I think a lot of times the socialization, even though you want socialization across the board, across all ages, is different. And what does that feel like? What does that look like for them as teenagers moving into adolescence and discovering themselves? And if they've come out of homeschool and they're now choosing to get into the school system, public or private, then what does that look like for them? And do they feel comfortable? Are they comfortable in their skin? Which is, I think, the point of pulling them out of school. There's a lot of that involved in the psyche, I think, of a parent pulling their kid out of school, is building up the confidence in themselves, right? Without the judgment and the comments from people that you really you're not in earshot to, right? You don't know what the teachers are saying to your kids. You don't know what the staff, faculty are saying around your kids when they're listening. And a lot of times it's not about the lessons, it's they're talking amongst themselves about what happened on Saturday, and the kids are listening to that. And what what is that teaching them, about adult life, and just being privy to adult conversations, I think is very I'm personally really cautious about my conversations, my adult conversations around them, to the point where I won't talk much around my kids when I'm with adults, other adults. Or I'll spell things, you know. Um, but I think even then there's kind of like a tone to the conversation that I don't know, my boys, they just pick up on stuff, and I know my oldest is always listening. So I'm just really protective, but I know I can't always be protective of what he hears and takes in. And so, you know, it is what it is. I can't be helicopter parent, forever. So as far as homeschooling or growing up, it's just I think really staying enlightened to um, what you're doing, why you're doing it, staying educated on what it means, what it might mean, so that you're just, I don't know, making the best decisions with all the information that you have at the ready. It's kind of like I'm listening to these audiobooks, but I'm not necessarily um, taking in everything. I can't, I just take what resonates. I really something does sound very interesting, and then I might Google it a little bit more, read a couple more articles on it, and then I resume the audiobook, because I'm curious, just kind of piecing the puzzle together for myself. That there's a glow up mentally, right? And intellectually for me that I think is important, just so that I know at all times, if I were to send my boys back to school, what are kind of the questions I'd be asking the teachers? What would I be looking out for? Would I, when I tour the schools, what am I watching out for as far as the teachers and how they behave and what they talk about? I'm not fond of teachers that complain a lot. Who would want that kind of energy influencing your kid? Because then do they turn into complainers themselves? Do they learn that complaining is kind of how you get ahead in life? So, and then as far as just kind of the look, I think just I'm not one for, overhauling my wardrobe. I just make what I have work. So if you're like that, then it's just about putting the pieces together that make you feel like, I'm serious about this, but I'm also very versatile. I've got tennis shoes on, and maybe I've got like a nice khaki slack and a blouse or a loose t-shirt, where it kind of can blend into both settings. But there's not much where you have to really look nice, to be honest, when you are in and out of these classes and parks and taking your kids places and on and off Zoom. There's really nothing that you have to be dressed up for. So I don't know. It's and also taking care of your skin, taking care of your body. I know the other day I got a headache because I wasn't drinking enough water because we were out and about so much, and I wasn't drinking enough water. Because my first thing is like, well, are you guys drinking water? And then while you're helping them drink water, you're not drinking your own. You're, just attending to everybody else. And then things just go so fast. The boys are here one second, they're there the next, and then they leave the mess in their wake, and then you've got to clean that up, and then and then they're fighting. And so on any given point, any given time of day, you're not necessarily taking care of yourself. So I think that's a big glow up factor, is taking care of your body, taking care moving. Like today I've already gone to the park with the boys. So I know my oldest likes a lot of it, to get energy out, and we were just kind of strolling along. And then at the end, we're like, okay, how are we feeling? Remy needed more energy out. So we did some jumping jacks, and he was into it. He was leading the class. So jumping jacks, running in place, stretching, breathing. And that was a nice little add to our park moment. And yeah, just trying to fit it all in, and making sure that I still fit in my meditation time. I still fit in my downtime, And if I'm feeling, tired or groggy one morning, I know I need to go to bed early that night. So just getting good sleep, that's keeping my mind alert and ready for whatever is going to happen. Because like you're wearing all the hats, right? So you're a learning coach, as they call you in the biz, in the homeschool biz. It's like you're the learning coach. You're not a teacher. You're not the homeschool teacher. You're just a learning coach. And so I wear my learning coach hat, I wear my mom hat, and I'm trying to kind of I got this advice from my aunt, and she's on the line right now, to just kind of have the different looks. So I have a little lanyard, and so they know I'm teacher when I wear the lanyard, teacher. And then I'm mom when I take it off. And so to the point where they're like, "Are you wearing your lanyard? Are you mom right now?" Or but it's not any. It doesn't cause any confusion. It's just kind of a lighthearted way to be like, okay, she's this. I'm really not any different when I'm wearing either thing. But I do have to. I'm not kissing the boys when I'm wearing my lanyards because I'm like, no teachers can kiss you. So I don't get to kiss them and hug them and cuddle them. Well, I can't hug them if I'm the teacher. So what else do we do? Um, I would say that's a big one. It's just, yeah, taking care, making sure that you're taking care of yourself in all the different roles. You're the learning coach, you're the mom, you're the business owner, you are the person, the human, right, that needs a break sometimes. I know, it's cute. They're cute. Uh, yeah, so, we're wearing all the hats, we're doing all the things, but at the same time, you really do have to make time for you. I got a really good walk in yesterday. My thing though is I just really wish that when I was off, when I took my off time, it wasn't only them watching TV. I wish what I want for my situation is to put in place, and there's so much to put in place that I feel I'm just trying to keep ahead of, or just keep in my sights, right? This is what I want for us, me and my boys. This is what I want for our new normal. This is what I want for my life with them. And just keeping that in my sights because right now it's not ideal. It's not perfect. When I take my time off, it's most likely them watching TV. And that's not how it was when it was, me. I had different systems. I had systems when I was in my home. And so that's what I want to establish is just a better way to work. That gets me feeling like I'm not doing enough or I'm not doing things right. It makes me feel guilty when they're watching TV when, I'm working or I'm taking calls or I'm going for a walk. Like yesterday, I needed a walk. I was like, arranged with my mom, you got the boys, I'm going to go for a walk. And then, my nephew and my nephew and my brother-in-law came over, so they were playing with them. So there was some non-TV time, and there was a big family time. It was such a beautiful moment, and they were having such a good time with their family, which is really, really important. I think moving closer to family was a big, big draw for me. And we were very much solo in LA, and so we're closer to family. And so I love to see my boys light up because a cousin came over, or we're going to go to our cousin's house, and they're all around the same age, or we're spending Easter with all of our cousins, and that's how I grew up. Would see my cousins almost weekly. Every single weekend, I saw my cousins, and then I saw my siblings, every day. And it just felt like there was a big, strong family component in my upbringing. And I know that is what they need too. So that's what we're getting. And that's what they're getting. And so when I took my walk, I had a little bit, I know there was some TV time, but there was a lot of family time too. And I got to just like, just breathe and be with my own thoughts and not worry about anything. And yeah, I got a really good walk in. It was a long walk too. It was longer than I thought. And I thought I would come back sooner to rid the TV time, but I ended up no taking the full hour walk, and because it was just so good and cathartic and healing for me. And I have to make sure that I do that more. So that's what I would say is glowing up as a homeschool mom is just making sure you're not neglecting yourself. That is the same. I'm singing the same tune as just mompreneur, right? Handling your mom life and your business life, not neglecting what you need to keep doing what you're doing. You're the CEO, so keep doing what you're doing. In order to keep doing what you're doing, you have to really keep the CEO well well nourished, hydrated, good sleep, um, and like I said, I think well read. Just staying in the loop on the things that really matter to you in this moment. Right, you're gonna move on to something else. Just stay learned in that time. Um, Oh, yeah, that is beautiful. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. Aunt Marie says, let's create some hands-on learning activities so they can do that while you have your downtime. Yeah, that would be beautiful. Yeah, and I imagine like putting together kits or something, and then they just kind of open it up, and it's like, oh, this is what we're doing when mom's working or something. This is the package we'll get to open, and hopefully there's not a lot of glue involved because there was an assignment today. There was a lot of glue involved and it was just a mess. So hopefully something that doesn't require too much cleanup. Um, but yeah, anyway, the walk was a big deal for me to get that in. And I think once you do it once you do the thing that you really need, like I just needed to get out of the house and clear my head. Once you do it, you're like, okay, I could do this. I could do this more. I could fit this in more. I could make it happen. I got through the learning curve of how I was going to fit it in. I actually didn't even think about it. I was just like, okay, got a second? Okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to walk. Once you do it once, you're like, okay, this wasn't so bad. This wasn't so hard. I could do this. I can fit this in, right? At any point in my day, if depending on how I structure the day or how I make arrangements, and I can do this again. And then for me, I like to schedule it in somewhat and I get to look forward to it. It becomes a non-negotiable in that day. So if it's, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I put it in on a particular time of the day, and then everybody can kind of like rally around that time. Everybody's informed, they know it's happening regularly. And that's what I did a lot. Okay, good. So Marie says no glue and no glitter. Okay, sounds good. I'm looking forward to that. Let's make that happen. Uh, okay, so what was I saying? So yeah, once you do it once, it becomes, oh, we can make this happen. Let's do it. And then everybody else who is involved is part of the communication loop, and they know what's coming up, and they can help it move along, help the engine run, and the train go. They're part of it all. And so, yeah, this is a very, very much a new normal. It's a stray from what I've done in the past and how I made things work in the past. But we're getting it together for sure. And I still will say this, that it's a big help. I'm finding that I have a village here, and it is a big help. It is very different, you know, to have a village in in that I don't feel as much guilt asking for help from the people around me as maybe, if they're just friends who are willing to help. I don't feel as guilty asking for help where I am now. And that's a beautiful thing because I think everybody's involved in the love for these kids, and everybody really wants to see them flourish and be successful and all that. So the next question is, what's your biggest tip for success? Okay, so I've got two that came out immediately when I saw this question. I was like, oh, be a beginner, because I feel like I'm literally a beginner. When I have reached like heights of my career, heights of anything that I pursued in school, I've always approached it with a beginner's mindset. And I've talked about this before. I'll probably have to link a video or two here so that you can see that I've talked about this before. Being a beginner is how you overcome some of the jitters and you are willing to learn. You are not defensive about what people say because as a beginner, you're brand new to stuff. So you're just taking it all in. You're a sponge. Like, tell me more. And asking questions. You're not afraid to ask questions. You're not afraid to enter rooms as a beginner because people know you're a newbie. And there a lot of times, if you are in the right places and spaces, you will find somebody who loves beginners, loves to mentor beginners. And you can start to, feed off their knowledge and what they've learned, what's the best practice with them and how they've gotten to where they got in life and learn from them. And so I feel like that is absolutely the name of the game when you are starting something, and at every level of success, there's always something new, right? You're always going to be a beginner of something you're always going to be a beginner at something new. So as you rise and climb the ladder of your success, for instance, a friend of mine just started a podcast. That she's a beginner in that space, but she's not a beginner in client coaching courses, very successful. And then she's starting a podcast. That's a whole new world. So I was just advising her on how to get started, what the tools are, what best tips, what's worked for me when I had a podcast. And not to say that it needs to be looked at like this big undertaking, because it's just more of you doing what you do, talking, interviewing people. And, she was doing that. She was doing that kind of stuff, like in her courses, in her groups, communities. And it was just now on a different stage, right? With a different mic. And I think with a podcast, I thought there's just kind of like a little bit of a shift in mindset. You want to serve the person who's not watching, because a lot of times you're listening to podcasts on a commute or on a walk. I listen to a lot of my podcasts, like, earbuds in and walking, and so just thinking about the end consumer, who's going to be watching this. The audience is, for most podcasts, probably not watching it. However, there's a whole game on YouTube where the podcast is very stylized, produced for the viewer, somebody who's watching it. And so you'll notice that how a podcast, I'm on a tangent here because this isn't even what you guys are asking for, but I'll just share kind of what I was telling her. So think about, if you're going to do a podcast, film it too. So it doesn't have to be high production cost or whatever. You don't have to go there with it. However, film it. So be on both platforms, kind of that Stitcher audience, iTunes audience, and then you've got, your YouTube audience. And they're both being served by you being on with this person if you're interviewing and having this dialogue. And it's, for me, I love watching a podcast. I love watching the interview happen. And with that, you learn the camera angles, you learn the lighting, you learn how best to make sure that you're toggling back and forth from the two different speakers. So what is your speaker view and how is it enhancing the experience of watching this podcast, watching this interview? Like Oprah, right? If you're watching Oprah back in the day, you'd have the camera angles on her, and then you'd have the camera angle on the person, you'd have the close up and the stage, the full stage. So all that's getting factored in as you elevate, right, your podcast, with success and things like that, and audience growth, that you elevate kind of the look of your podcast. And then same thing with the person that's not listening. You just kind of notice that they're mindful of the people who aren't watching it. They're mindful, oh, if you could see me right now, I'm laughing because of this, or, you're not looking, but the book cover has this, these colors on it, and they're explaining, they kind of describe it. So it's not a takeaway from the people watching. It's just like a little add-on for the people who are just listening. So you just want to be mindful of the audience. So there is a little bit of a mindset shift because, not everything can just be shown. You want to make sure that the person who is blind to the aesthetics of it, they're able to kind of like put the picture in their own heads. Um, they're able to put the picture in their head about what they are listening to, right? They're painting the picture. I used to listen to this true crime podcast a lot, and she was such a good storyteller. And I don't know, I doubt she's on YouTube or anything with her true crime podcast. Um, Actually, I doubt a lot of true crime podcasts are on YouTube because yeah, it's so much about the story. And if you want all the footage, you just go to the show notes, or you can watch a Dateline on it. But I was obsessed with this true crime podcast, and she was a great storyteller. And so you almost just wanted to listen to her tell the story of it. You didn't need any visuals. And a lot of times she would allude to, and if you want to see the case report, or you want to see the police notes and things like that, or pictures of the crime scene, go to the show notes, and she'd have the show notes. I only did that maybe once or twice because she was such a good storyteller that it was complete, right? I had enough of the story. I was like, "Oh man, she's really selling it." Um the the mood of the time, right? And what was the mystery around it, and the who done it, like how so this is, she'd paint the picture of this suspect and that suspect, and you put these pieces together. So just great storytelling is always a tip for success. Great storytelling will always build your brand if you can be a great storyteller. And also, big one is don't take yourself so seriously. That has been such a big thing for me. If I feel like getting caught in the comparison trap, or my perfectionism is taking over and I'm not executing on something that I want to do, like I have big ideas and big dreams, big goals, and I'm just stuck, I know I'm taking myself too seriously. I'm thinking I'm too good, like I have to be too good for where I'm at. Like, you know what I mean? The perfectionist um scope. It's like when you're looking out of that lens, you think you've got to measure up. You have this picture of what perfect looks like, and you're trying to be that. And maybe you're just a beginner. Maybe you're just a beginner. And so I think that goes hand in hand. That goes hand in hand, like where you are a beginner, you're not taking yourself too seriously. And when you're not taking yourself too seriously, you're not afraid of making mistakes. You're not afraid of putting yourself out there and, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Or you're not afraid of, yeah, falling on your face and getting back up. And, everything, I think there's a lightness to it. When you don't take yourself too seriously, there's a lightness to your life, and things don't weigh so heavy on your shoulders as though you aren't gonna you aren't gonna be okay. But we talked about this before, that you act as if things always work out for you. I think that does go hand in hand with this idea of don't take yourself too seriously, because if you did take yourself too seriously, the idea of everything always works out for me would feel as though, well, then I've got to do all the work. I've got to make it happen, or it all falls on my shoulders to make this happen. When no, God, the universe, the divine, it's all there too to help you, right? You just aim your ship in the direction, and you go, and you have faith, you hold fast to the vision and the destination, what you want. And all the while, it's not only about that, but it's also about the journey, looking and seeing the dolphins pass, and the whales, and take to for the ship analogy, you're being with the moment, you're being with the tide and the waves, and you're just enjoying the cruise right on the way there. So I think there is a um I think it's so important to just have a lightness about the road ahead, the road that you're on. Things can feel really heavy very easily, very fast. They can feel like you're doing things wrong. It can feel like you don't have it all together at any point, right? At any point, you can feel like I'm not measuring up. I'm not enough because that's the plague of our human flesh, the life in this human body, always feeling like we're not enough. There's that survivalist in us that's like, oh, I got to get to the next, get to the next, get to the next. And you could feel like you're not enough in that plight, I'm, but that is when you feel like that, when you feel like you're not enough, that's the minute to, okay, what can I learn here? Be a beginner. What can I learn here? What's the lesson? How can I enjoy this moment right here? Where's the beauty in this? How can I thrive here? How can I be with the moment, be with what I know, who I am, what I bring to the table, and how can I carry that forward into this moment, into this situation, into this room, and just bring it, right? Bring it with all my questions, with all my I don't knows, with all my uncertainty, and just do it. Do it anyway and go after it and then not take myself so seriously. I think that's a big thing for if you were to take to the stage and maybe you're trying to be a speaker. That is a big one, in my opinion. If you've ever heard, imagine the audience is naked, that is not taking yourself so seriously because look at everyone else, they're naked. So they're probably self-conscious about their nakedness in the audience. So just imagine them naked there and you're dressed. So in a way, you're one step ahead. At least you're not naked. And there's a lightness, right? Immediately you're like, okay, you can walk out and have some some measure of composure because well, at least I'm not naked. And then I know some speakers say that their worst nightmare is like having the dream of them walking out naked or just, pants aren't on. You walk out on stage and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't put on my pants or I didn't put on my shoes or I don't have socks on." Like you're missing some aspect of your wardrobe. That's a common fear of public speaking nightmare dream that a lot of speakers will have like the night before. But the more you do it, the better you get. And that is, that's the name of the game. And the more you do it, the more you're willing to just kind of be in the space with the people. You're not better than them, and that's a beginner mindset. It's I'm not better than you. I'm just trying to learn from you. I just want to be with you, share what I know. Don't take yourself too seriously. I just want to share what I know. Tell you a couple stories, storytelling, tell you a couple stories about me and what I've learned. And this is what I hope to impart on your journey, how I can help you and see how all of that just like makes the journey towards success so much easier, so much lighter, so much more enjoyable. It very much is kind of like this we're in this together feeling, like we're in this together. We're all, for instance, if I'm going to use myself as a homeschooling mompreneur. When I was first postpartum, I was an entrepreneur turned mom. That was me, a fish out of water, not knowing what I was doing in trying to balance that. As I started doing it and finding my groove, I was like, oh, okay, and sharing my story. And then other moms were interested in my story and interested in me helping them do the same. The mastermind was born, and this is my wheelhouse now. I wasn't always a mom. My wheelhouse was different, but I'm just adding to my tools. I'm adding to the tools that I can help my clients with now that I'm a mom doing this business at the same time. And how do I make it work? And then now being a homeschool mom, totally different. I'm so out of my element. I'm so out of my element. I'm so out of my element. And I know a lot of it is because we're starting so close to the end of the year. We're not starting even in the mid-year. We started in the late kindergarten year, me trying to kind of get get with the times of how to homeschool and be a homeschool mom to the point where I didn't start at the start of the year. I didn't have orientation. We didn't get all of our tools and materials that ordered. Everything took so long to get to me. In fact, I think I'm still waiting on stuff that has to do with some of his lessons and how I intend to work with him on his phonics and his math and his just everything. Not even really, well, yeah, science. I have a science kit coming. So it's like, I don't even have all of that. Had I started at the beginning of the year, this would start to be trickling in, and I still would have the whole year left to start to execute on this stuff. For me, I just look at it as, "Oh, okay, well, at least I have the summer still to move with some of the stuff that still hasn't arrived." Even though I won't necessarily have access to my homeschool teacher, I still will be using the next month and a half to do my best with asking questions, making sure I write all my questions down. The next time I have a meeting with my homeschool teacher, I'm asking her the question. She makes herself available more often though than once a month at our meetings. I can call her, vent to her, tell her, "Oh, I have no clue how I'm doing this. What am I supposed to do here?" I also have access to other resources within the community, the homeschool community. I joined a couple community moms, like homeschool mom communities, where I just threw out a couple questions, and what comes back is always just really great feedback, even if it's just something to encourage me to keep going. It's very much timely and good that I'm just using all the resources, because yeah, through the summer I can still keep going with what I started with them. And then I am, full disclosure, considering school for them in this next school year, because I, knowing what I know now, I wonder if I can make it work with the school and the scheduling, and make sure that I'm communicating what I want from them, because the IEP world in homeschool, while it is there, it uh, the resource and the specialists aren't really in person, and I really want someone in person with him. I don't want it to just be me. And so I'm kind of I'm torn there. So maybe you guys have some tips for me on how to think this through, because I want some of the specialists working with him one-on-one, not just via Zoom. And so that I'm maybe I am not in a because we're not in a learning center. Starting this late in the school year, the learning centers were full. And so he's not in person in any place. I'm curious what that is like, to see what that would be like. Him in the learning center, him having access to one on one time with a specialist or something like that, to support him. And then I can continue to support him from home. So I don't know, is that like a half day thing, or what are we, how are we making that work? I'm curious because of the resources that are in the institution, in the educational institution, that that I came to realize are there, just in this kindergarten year, just in this last, several months. So I know that and I'll speak to the public school system, because that's really all I've been learning about and trying to come to understand as far as the resources go, because that's where he started. It was a public school. I know with private schools and charters, they don't always necessarily accommodate neurodivergence. They don't always accommodate somebody who needs a little bit more time with tests, or uh, there's enough of a homogeny with the school, with the students that probably are in the or the private sector or whatever, and the charter schools, that maybe they feel like they don't need to serve that audience. I don't know. I haven't asked. I haven't looked into it, because once somebody told me that they don't have to accommodate, I was like, okay. So then I just geared all my focus toward public school and what those services and that whole arena looks like, in that they provide the assistance that this child needs this particular child needs. They're looking at this individual child and they're saying, how can we serve this child to get the best education this child can get? And then I know with all the initiatives, the anti-bullying initiatives and how schools are really stepping up to that plate, making sure that the kids feel safe at school to be themselves, and not feel shame around how they are. And I know you can't school the playground as much as we want them to. They're not schooling the playground, or they're not the rulers of recess, that's for sure. They're just kind of looking, they're not necessarily listening to the conversations entirely. And because it's, their chance to be free, let the kids roam free. And you need a lot more people on the playground if you were going to monitor, as well as I'm sure all the parents wish was the case. But I just know that from what I see and where I've been and who I've talked to, and the programs out there that I have been part of, and I've been invited to listen to lectures on, I am seeing that they are putting in place the resources and the tools and the specialists and the people, the things, to make sure that everybody has access to, a great education. And then it comes down to, well, what is that education and what are we teaching them? Is it that important that they learn about the War of 1812? I don't know. Is it? And how so? What are the implications of them missing that lesson? Is it, and who said that that was so important that we learn that, and all that stuff, right? All the little battles along the way, and this governor and that colonel and this, it's just, what do you call the generals, in times of war, how that's just so pushed, right? All these battles, and this colonel, he just wanted his name in the textbook. And so he's like, well, make sure my name is in that I won that battle along the way. And along the way, the little battles lead up to winning the war. And I don't know. It's just like, what are in these books? What are in these lessons? And so I'm just knowing that I do want, I want a strong arm in what my kids are learning. I know that. And so that is why homeschool for now is the way that I'm going about it. But when it comes to like what's next, and is there kind of this assimilation into the school system and the institution at large, is there a possibility for that, or what are the alternatives? I know there's homeschool pods and people who are homeschooling not just their own kids, but like they're taking on other kids, and they're treating it like a homeschool pod. I don't know where one exists around me, nor have I ventured down that rabbit hole to find one, and then to learn how do you get into that? What are the hurdles around that to get into one of those things? And then you, of course, want to tour the house that they're going to be in. If it's a house, you want to also interview the teachers, right? The learning coaches, whoever they are. And all of that, right? All of this takes time. And so, you look at what's already in place, you look at what's already been worked on to be improved upon, and you just start to go after that and pick and choose what's going to work for what you want. And I would say that's where I am. I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm still loving being part of his everyday. I love learning about my children. I love learning what they need. I love being part of watching them grow and get something and have those aha moments. And I also know, as a beginner, not taking myself too seriously, I don't know it all. And I definitely want to make sure that they have access to all the resources, all the specialists, the people, the places, the things that will set them up for success in life. And so we'll see. I'm looking at, I like the idea of them having the learning center times during the week. So some homeschool moms will put the kids into learning centers some of the week. So it's maybe 1 or 2 days out of the week. And they'll go into these kind of schools and it should, they hop from this subject to the next subject to the next subject, and then that's it. That's the day. There might be like a break for lunch, depending on how long that is, but those are lessons being taught not by you, right? And not over Zoom, but in person, and there's socialization, and there's learning from somebody else who's studied this for years. And imagine having, because when I look back at my education and my time in school, I know when I wasn't doing good in school, it was because my teachers bored me to tears, and I dreaded the class. I didn't have they weren't telling stories. They weren't making it interesting. It was very mundane for them, and you could tell because we weren't learning anything, or I wasn't. And the teachers who did teach me with enthusiasm, and they told me stories about how it applies to my life and why you might need this one day, and just brought in other things other than textbook page 1, page 2, all the way to page 400, and this, and brought in life experiences, people to come in and talk about their experience, and you did projects with partners, and you got to work together and create something. Those were the classes I did really well in, and I had fun. I looked forward to them. It was exciting to, oh, I got this period next. Let's go. And so that is, what I enjoy being part of, tailoring that for my boys. And so I think in a school you lose access to that autonomy of creating that for them, because you don't really know what's happening in that school. And I went to one school yesterday and asked a mom coming out with her kid, and she was coming out of the gates, and I was going in to ask about getting a tour. Like I said, I'm doing my due diligence across the board. And so I said, "How's this school? Are you happy with this school?" And she like was, there's better schools. And so I'm just like, it's true. You really do have to factor it all in. What do you want for your kids? What do you want for their education? How might what you experienced in your past, in your schooling upbringing, how could you kind of manipulate that, for lack of a better word, to be something that is better this time around, for them? And that's not to say you're going to get it right. That's not to say that what you choose is the best. Some people love school, some people hate it, right? College isn't for everyone. And yet, how expensive is it? Um, yeah, and it's very coveted, and then you need the degree for certain jobs, and so you have to go to the school, you have to get those degrees, you have to get the PhD, and you go for all these degrees and licenses. So we're very much still stuck in the system. So as much as we want to kind of pull them out of the system and make sure that we're setting a firm foundation, one of leading with their passion, leading with their curiosity and their interests, and letting them spend time there so that they don't burn out in the system too early. And they get to college, whatever higher education, they get there and they're still passionate about learning. I think that's really, I think what we all want, right? Them to still be passionate about learning, and teaching themselves stuff, and being a beginner, going into the lectures and listening intently, like, oh man, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay. That just changed my whole world view. Just what he said right there in that moment. And then seeking out the other speakers, in this, across all industries and platforms, not only on YouTube, but also on, on stages, Broadway stages and plays and things like that. So I don't know. There's so much that I'm still putting together for these kids, and yeah, I'll take you along for the ride, and obviously welcome all of your feedback and ideas and things to help me on my journey. If you're ahead of me, I'd love to hear in the comments, what's working for you. But anyway, that wraps us up for today's Clarity Hotline. I will see you next week, Thursday, 12 noon Pacific. And submit your question at clarityhotline.com, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. And that's a wrap. Okay, peace. All right, YouTube. Oh, Jenny's here. Going through the school system with any night is an ongoing battle. Oh my gosh, both of my kids at IEP in elementary and high school here in Canada, but it was so very difficult to have to talk. Okay, so Jenny, you have a live stream. Okay, so Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern. They're going to be just because I care so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really hope so. I have a lot to learn from you, Jenny. I really want to hear, maybe you and I just need to do a collab, right? On just talk, right? Through one of these lives, or I don't know, offline, you and I can chat, because I'm really curious, what's worked for you. I know you've probably seen it all because of what you've dealt with. And I feel like at the start of this journey, not knowing enough, I'm just like, okay, let's do it. Okay, good. So message me, and we'll because I think these are gonna delete once I end the live stream. But I can't wait to be on your live and be commenting on your live. I can't wait to listen to what you're talking about. Yeah, still trying. I know, right? It's a work in progress. Yeah, I don't know. Every day for me is like an up and down. It's like, okay, yesterday I had my really hard moments, and that's why I had to get out of the house and take a walk. But I needed that hard moment to force myself to get out and take a walk, because that walk was like everything. I needed that hour-long walk of just, don't bother me, don't talk to me, don't ask me questions. It was just me and nobody else. And that was like everything I needed. So I don't know. It's all like leads up to what we need. We just have to listen to what our body's calling for. And but yeah, so for instance, it took me to read, maybe, I don't know, the Bob books. The Bob books were highly recommended to me for helping him learn to read. And they're great. They're great. It took us a long time, 20 minutes, to get through what, 4 pages of a Bob book. And it's literally, Matt sat, Sam sat, Matt sat on Sam, that kind of thing. And he is learning, but he's also getting so frustrated along the way. Like, I mean, we finished one. And so I don't know what he's going through, to be honest, like what he is struggling with, because he'll finish one of those little lines and want to be, "Ugh, okay, I'm done. Like, oh, my brain hurts," and for me, that was never a thing for me. I'd be like, okay, let's keep going. Read, read, read. I loved learning to read. I needed a tutor along the way to learn to read, because my comprehension was way off in the beginning. I don't know what my thing was. I'm trying to keep better notes for my sons than my mom did with me, as far as that goes. But I did need a tutor. I know that. But this tutor sat with me for reading and comprehension. So I wasn't, the questions at the end of the story, I wasn't able to recall, like, okay, well, what did that cat do? What color did they have on in the story? So anyway, with that tutor, I learned to love to read, because I wasn't probably on the path of learning to love to read. But with that tutoring, I did start to love to read. And now I'm just like a huge reader, huge. And so I want to make sure I'm not missing that, right? The piece that connects that for them. I don't know. They're right. There's something about reading that is just so huge, I think, for every mom out there, that you just want your kids to love to read, because I think there's a world, right, that they have access to if they love to read. And so, will they love to read? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe one of them will and one won't, and that just will be what it is. And at some point, I will be okay with that idea, because it is what it is, and that's who they are, and you just accept it along the way. But yeah, it's like, yeah, we're still, it's a daily it's a daily uphill battle. But yeah, we have our calm moments, maybe an hour or so, and then it's chaos, and then it's calm, and then it's so. But I know in me, it's just me regulating myself on a regular basis. you know, regulating myself first so that I can lead with the behavior I want modeled from them. And so anyway, I'll let you go. And so Monday looks like Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern is your live stream. Woo, woo, woo. And yeah, if you're gonna if you're gonna talk about this, please do. I would love to hear about all the what you went through, and getting the IEP honored. How was that? Um, getting getting the teachers to not make you feel guilty about every bad report that came home, and when you don't necessarily subscribe to that idea of what academic success looks like for you in your home, how to just be like, I'm not going to worry about that grade for him. I don't know, it's like I just want to take charge over if he was in school and he did have the specialist and the support and all that stuff, and they are accommodating his learning style. But at the same time, what are his grades, and is the academic gap like, oh my gosh, is it so daunting? Are they so worried about him that they're sending home these reports for me to get my act together and make sure you're doing this at home? And then what if I just don't agree? What do I do then? Anyway, so many questions. But I'll let you go, Jenny. And then see you guys next week, 12 noon Pacific.